Alright, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Combiner Wars Deluxe Class Firefly, aka Fireflight, who, he couldn't be called that at the time for trademark reasons, but, whatever. Yeah, no, a pretty fun little figure. I kind of decided it would be fun to go back and take a look at some Combiner Wars figures, just because, we've gotten the new, Legacy Stunticons and in that new version of a Combiner, and according to leak listings, at least, we're going to be getting new versions of the Aerial Bots next year, and also of the Constructicons in Studio Series 86, and then there in the listings that also says there's going to be a Deluxe Swindle, so maybe that's starting to work on some more Combaticons too, so, kind of getting back into the Combiner swing here, but, Combiner Wars, I think, kind of gets a bad rap. I think it was a pretty fun time for the Transformers toy line here. But yeah, I'm going to start off by taking a look at Fireflight here. Firefly, I'm going to call him Fireflight because that's the character's name. It was just a trademark thing. But yeah, it turns into a pretty decent little jet here. He actually does have a front landing gear that can fold up. Obviously, it's pretty simple in terms of you can definitely just tell how the whole robot mode is just hanging out under there. But, it wasn't terrible at the time, especially for deluxe jet formers. He does come with a couple weapons. He does come with this kind of flamethrower-y looking weapon here, and then obviously the infamous hand-foot gun things. And in terms of storage, you're really supposed to just plug these underneath the wings and call it a day, which I think looks incredibly stupid. Asymmetry aside, I just think that this is kind of a bad look. I personally, I just kind of take this weapon and put it off to a box, and I kind of just headcanon that these things can fly on their own and kind of go around with them, because yeah, that's kind of my least favorite thing about Combiner Wars, is that the hands and feet weren't integrated in any way, and obviously it was serving the purpose of having them actually be Scramble City, which I'm kind of assuming that the new ones aren't going to be. I think they're just going to pick a designated spot for each of them and then call it a day, which, I guess I kind of prefer at the end of the day. The Scramble City thing is fun, but I think it just creates more trouble than it's worth in terms of having the little hand-foot gun things, which, I don't think are as bad as people kind of, give them credit for, but it's still maybe not the most elegant solution. But yeah, decent little jet mode. In terms of comparisons, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, just for a standard one. Obviously, Deluxe Jet is not going to scale well with a Deluxe car, but yeah, what can you do? That's always kind of the problem with these guys, is that, Superion would have to be humongous for all of these guys to actually properly scale. They'd, all the Deluxe limbs would have to be the size of Commander Class Jetfire. So, it can't really work out. But yeah, that's what they look like together. And then for another Deluxe Jet comparison, here he is with Needle Nose from Legacy. And you can say, they're pretty much the same size. They're kind of similar too, in terms of having, them just kind of the robot mode just hanging out in the bottom here. This guy actually, I think, integrates his plane parts a little bit more than Needle Nose does. But yeah, that's what they look like together. In terms of transformation, I'm going to show off the two different limb modes, and then we're going to kind of compare these guys with each other as we go along and take a look at the other ones. And then I'll probably do Superion in Silverbolt's video, or maybe in its own separate video. I haven't really decided yet, but to get to the leg mode, it's pretty simple. The Combiner Wars guys in general were pretty simple, which honestly I kind of appreciate, especially with the Scramble City play feature, because if you were really wanting to go back and forth between all different modes and it was a more complicated deluxe, it would just be kind of a pain, whereas these guys are fairly straightforward. Basically what you do is you just take this tail fin and fold it up, take these tail fins and fold them up. You can either have the wings folded forward or folded around the arms, which is what I prefer to do. Just put away the landing gear here, and then take this cockpit section and then fold it up like that. And then you kind of want to unclip this section so you have the clearance to rotate around the combiner peg, and you want to rotate his head around so that the back of the head is what's showing on the back here, and then just reattach this like that. And then we can take our hand-foot gun and just rotate out the little heel bit. And there we have Fireflight in his leg mode. And yeah, it's a pretty neat little transformation. It works pretty well. And then for arm mode, I think I'll show off after we've gone through robot mode, just because it's, most of the way there for the transformation. But yeah, to continue on to robot mode, you just want to flip the wings around. You can have them kind of flipped out at an angle like this or folded all the way back. For him, I usually do them all the way back, and then for Slingshot, I do them at an angle just to differentiate them a little bit. But then you want to take the arms. They just fold out from the side here and just come down like that. unattach the legs like we did before, and then unclip them from the back, and they'll do the classic Combiner Wars like double hinged open thing, and then you just make sure these tabs line up with these slots in the back of the legs here. And then close them up like that, and then separate the legs, and then flip around to the combiner peg, and there we have Firefly in his robot mode. And yeah, pretty decent little robot mode. It's didn't really have to reinvent the wheel a whole lot here. He's a fairly simple guy, but it works pretty well in terms of articulation. The head is on a ball joint, so it can rotate around like that. It also does have a pretty decent cut in the back, so he can look up fairly well. You can also, I guess, if you want, like use the combiner peg to rotate around like that, but it doesn't really work all that well. Kind of looks like he's sucking in his stomach there. The shoulders are on ball joints, so they can rotate around and go out to the side. He also does have this separate transformation joint, which thankfully locks in place fairly well. So by default, the ball joints are the thing that moves. But if you want a shoulder to go up at that section there, or have it go up all the way, you can use that joint. It's got a bicep swivel, a detented elbow for whatever reason, sort of like a soft detent, and it feels a little bit sketchy, but it works well enough. He has a waist swivel right here, which is a little bit off center just because of how it works for arm mode, so it looks a little bit silly, like his waist is a little bit dejointed, but it works. Dejointed, disjointed. The hips can go forward and back out to the side. They're just on ball joints there. He's got a mushroom peg thigh swivel there, about 90 degrees of bend at the knee, and then nothing at the feet. They weren't really like regularly integrating ankle tilts at this point. He just has that kind of like sculpted A stance. Then obviously we can give him his weapons here, the one that actually, looks good, and then the hand foot gun, which you can fold up and have him hold like that, which I always thought looks a little bit stupid, but whatever. Again, I usually just have these kind of like floating alongside them as like little drones. In terms of storage, you can still use the ports on the underside of the wings. Again, I don't think this looks particularly good just because they kind of like stick way out off the side there, but at least they have a place to go. I'm not in love with it, but at least there was some thought into integrating those in some way. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Sideswipe, and here he is again with Needle Nose, just so you can see what he looks like with a few average size deluxes there. And yeah, honestly, not a whole lot else to say about Firefly on his own. Again, a fairly simple figure. He's simple, gets the job done. He's not my favorite of the Combiner Wars molds, but he's pretty adequate. I don't really like, I guess, how the arms kind of stick out a little bit too far in these little stalks here. And I always found that this mold looks like a little bit too skinny and wibbly for my liking, but for all intents and purposes, I think it works pretty well. But yeah, no, pretty good little guy here. Nothing too crazy about him, but nothing really to complain about too much either. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Sorry I missed this most recent Sunday. I just got really busy that day and didn't end up being able to get an upload in. But yeah, without further ado, here we have Transformers Combiner Wars Deluxe Class Firefly. Realize I completely forgot to show off the arm mode here, but yeah, to get to that, you just want to rotate around the head and then rotate it around like that. Take the arms and then bring them up like this, and then you want to rotate the like forearms 90 degrees, and then when you bend them down, the like fist hole there will go over this little tab like that, just to kind of secure them into place there, just like that. And then do that on both sides, just to have the arms have a place to go. And then pretty much all you do is just attach the legs back together, rotate it 90 degrees, and then take your little hand-foot gun here, fold out the fingers, open up the thumb, and then bring it to whichever side is appropriate there, and then plug it into the bottom. And there we have his arm mode there. And yeah, that's really it for the video. See you next time.